if you want to lose weight for whatever reason, let's not punish you anymore. Let's make this simple, because science has shown us that there are certain foods that tackle your appetite in a healthful way, that stop you from being able to absorb every last calorie that you've ingested, and that actually can help you burn calories. And it's not magic, it's just relatively simple.
You are here for a reason, but navigating this human life can be challenging. How do you care for your body, mind, and spirit to make the most of your time here on Earth? How can you harness your incredible human potential? In this podcast, we explore these questions and more to help you craft your best life yet. Welcome to I Am Human. Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of I Am Human. I am your host, Dr. Yami, and I am so happy to be here with you today. Please remember to subscribe, review the podcast if you haven't already, especially since we've done the rebrand. I really would love to hear what you think, and share any and all episodes that you think could be beneficial to other people in your life. To be human means that you may get caught up in the weight loss craze, and in desperation to lose weight, utilize weight loss drugs. But to be human also means to take into consideration your own well-being, health, and longevity, and find out how you can use food to work for you instead of against you. And my guest today is Dr. Neal Barnard, who just wrote a new book, The Power Foods Diet, the breakthrough plan that traps, tames, and burns calories for easy and permanent weight loss. Now, y'all know that I don't like to talk about weight loss on my show for many reasons, but there's an epidemic happening right now. There's this huge surge of people running to use these GLP-1 agonists. And I think it's just triggering a lot of people. And there's a lot of people that are using them because it's almost like this competition, FOMO, that's happening. So it's a very difficult and complicated time because of this. But what I want to caution you about is that these medications have side effects, some which we have found potentially can be chronic and long-term, even if you stop using the medication. But it also really isn't doing anything to change your habits, to change what you eat, how you take care of your body. And so as soon as you stop using these medications, everything is just going to come back to where it was. Your habits have not been changed. And that's why, to me, it's so important not to emphasize your actual body size, the way that your body looks, but instead to talk about habits. What can we change in our diets? How can we change how we eat, what we eat, in order to best support us, to support the size that we are supposed to be at for us, for our own genetic potential, which is different for every single person. So I really wanted to have Dr. Barnard on to talk about his book and just to talk about little things that you can do in your diet to help your metabolism and do what you can. But it's not about counting calories. It's not about excessive crash diets or anything like that. This is whole food, plant-based, low-fat way to eat in a delicious way that supports a healthy body, supports longevity, and I'm all about that. So don't get confused, because obviously this book is for weight loss, written for weight loss, because that's what people want. But I think it's an important conversation to have in a different way to look at it. So if you don't already know about Dr. Barnard, who is amazing and has been doing such amazing work for such a long time, let me tell you about him. So Dr. Neal Barnard MD, FACC, is an adjunct professor of medicine at the George Washington University School of Medicine, Washington, D.C., and president of the Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine. He has led numerous research studies investigating the effects of diet on diabetes, body weight, hormonal symptoms, and chronic pain, including a groundbreaking study of dietary interventions in type 2 diabetes. He has authored more than 100 scientific publications and 20 books for medical and lay readers. As president of the Physicians Committee, Dr. Barnard leads programs advocating for preventive medicine, good nutrition, and higher ethical standards in research. So in this interview, we talk about why it may be beneficial to be mindful of how much you're taking in, at least not overeating, besides the size of your body, besides weight loss, because there are considerations to think about in that area. We talk about these different categories that he talks about in his book: appetite-taming foods, calorie-trapping foods, and metabolism boosters, what they are, how they're different, and some examples of those foods. We talk about what GLP-1 is and how we can naturally enhance that to reduce our appetite. We talk about his definition of a power food. We talk about some of the disadvantages and bad effects of high fat foods or a high fat diet. And then we talk about the 6 categories of foods that a Harvard team identified in a study on weight loss. We also talk about fruit and whether fruit causes weight gain. So this is a really great interview. Dr. Barnard is just like a wonderful speaker, very clear. This is very easy to follow conversation that I know that you'll get a lot out of. His book is also very easy to read and has amazing recipes in it that you are going to love and are not difficult to make at all. So thank you so much for being here today, for listening to this episode. I appreciate you so much. I hope you love it. And now let's welcome Dr. Neal Barnard. The information on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not meant to replace careful evaluation and treatment. If you have concerns about your health or well-being, please consult a healthcare professional. This podcast episode contains sensitive topics that may be triggering to certain people. Listener discretion is advised. Dr. Neal Barnard, welcome to I Am Human. It is such a pleasure to have you back to talk about your newest book, The Power Foods Diet. Wonderful book as always. So thank you so much for your dedication. Before we launch into the details, why did you write this book? Why did you think that this was the right book to write now?
Well, first of all, people have been tortured by weight loss issues. People want to lose weight. Their doctors tell them they better lose weight or they're going to be in trouble. But then the things that are presented to them, like cutting your calories, by Wednesday, you're so hungry, you're ready to eat the sofa, or don't eat carbohydrate. And people feel like, you mean I can't ever have rice, pasta, potato, piece of bread, fruit. It just seems kind of crazy, and yet people don't know what to do. What we have found, though, is that science has come in the back door and really given us the answer. That if we stop focusing so much on some of these old kinds of mythologies and instead focus on certain kinds of foods, we do know that certain dietary patterns will help us to get there. And within those dietary patterns, there are some foods that are a whole lot better than others. And the research has matured in about the past 6 to 8 years. And I thought it's time for people to have this information because it makes weight loss so much easier.
Yeah, I love it because it's like you have an overall paradigm, an overall way of eating, but then within it, it's like little tiny hacks to amplify things. So let's talk about what are the benefits of consuming less calories or at least not overeating besides weight loss?
Well, many people do take in more calories than their bodies really need. And so apart from weight gain, there's some evidence that may end up shortening our life overall, that we're just pushing our bodies into overdrive and lifespan is shortened. And the converse is true, that when people eat less, lifespan appears to be lengthened, and there are a bunch of other health benefits of it. But the main thing I'm trying to do here is to say to people, if you want to lose weight for whatever reason, let's not punish you anymore. Let's make this simple, because science has shown us that there are certain foods that tackle your appetite in a healthful way that stop you from being able to absorb every last calorie that you've ingested, and that actually can help you burn calories. And it's not magic, it's just relatively simple.
I love it. Okay, so what are appetite taming foods?
Appetite taming foods are foods that will reduce your appetite in a gentle kind of way. And we discovered this back many years ago. We were doing a research study we had 64 women in the study. They were all after the age of menopause, and they all wanted to lose weight. They had all tried Atkins, South Beach, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, you name it. They'd tried it, and they'd lost some weight, but they put the weight back on and they felt discouraged. So we decided to try foods that were really high in fiber, high in complex carbohydrates, and we threw out all the animal products. We kept oils really low. It was basically a low-fat vegan diet. We compared it to a more conventional, healthy diet, less red meat, more white meat, that kind of thing. And we were just blown away. First of all, we told people to eat as much as they wanted. There was no reason to restrict calories, but on the plant-based diet, they ended up eating 200 or 300 calories less every day. So we started to dig into their diets to think, what are you eating? And they were just following the rules, no animal products, keep oils low. But when you do that, something magic happens, which is you're eating some beans, some vegetables, some fruits, some whole grains. All these foods have fiber in them, which animal products don't at all. So your fiber intake goes up. Fiber has almost no calories, but it really fills you up. So they thought they were eating the same amount of food, but they weren't. They were also eating less fat. And this will not be on the test, but fat has 9 calories in every gram. They were eating more carbohydrate, which has only 4. So bottom line, although they thought they were eating the same, they were just not eating the same amount because their appetite was tamed much earlier. And by the way, I got to tell you one funny thing about this. About the 3rd week of the study, one of our research participants said, Dr. Barnard, you didn't say anything about Twizzlers. The Twizzlers? You mean red licorice? Right. They sell it at the 7-Eleven, and it is vegan and it's low in fat. And it's not exactly what we were suggesting, but when you do research studies, you set your rules and you can't change them. You live with it. So our participants were eating mostly healthy foods, but they were eating a little bit of junk there too, and they still did really well.
I love that. That's an amazing story. That's so funny. I think fiber is definitely one of those things that in the standard American diet is so underappreciated. Most adults are getting maybe 10, sometimes 15 grams of fiber per day, wondering why they're having trouble going to the bathroom, but also just not realizing the magic of fiber, how it fills you up, how it gives you that bulk and that satiety. But there's also secondary effects from our gut microbiome as well that help with our appetite. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know, people forget that you are not alone. In your digestive tract, you've got millions of friends, and those are your gut bacteria, and they're waiting for a nice meal. And, if you give them fiber, fiber is what they want. If you eat cheese, it's not a plant. It doesn't have any fiber. Have a burger, have pork chops, have chicken. These are not plants. They don't have fiber. So finally, when you give your gut bacteria the fiber they want, that's from beans, grains, fruits, vegetables, then it's suddenly like these are it's like the bacteria are little rosebuds who have been eating sort of cactus soil all this time. And you finally gave them the soil that they can thrive in. And that's a high fiber diet. But fiber does something else really cool. 2017, researchers at Tufts University did a neat study. They brought in individuals, healthy people, and half of them they said, have white bread, have white rice. The other half had whole grain bread, brown rice, and so forth. And what they discovered is that the fiber in the whole grain bread, in the brown rice, was a calorie trapper. That it went down their digestive tract, and like a sponge, it soaked up calories they hadn't absorbed yet and carried them out with the waste. And that was good for losing about 100 calories per day. So that's another thing that fiber does. It's part of why people who eat a lot of fiber tend to stay skinny.
I love that. Well, right now, there are certain medications on the market that are all the rage, leading to all of these overuse and shortages for people that need it. And it's targeting GLP-1. A lot of people may not understand what that is, but what is GLP-1? And is this something that we can naturally enhance to help reduce appetite?
Yeah, GLP-1 is something that your body makes. Who knew? Your intestinal tract is all set to make GLP-1. When you eat food, the right food, your intestine releases that GLP-1, which goes in your bloodstream to your brain. And it says, hey, brain, we just ate a whole bunch of food, so you can stop telling me that you're hungry because you're not hungry anymore. GLP-1 is your appetite turnoff. Now, there are a whole bunch of other natural signals in your body, but this is a big one. And because it's natural, no drug company can make it. And you think, wait a minute, I'd love a drug that turned off my appetite. Nope, you can't make GLP-1. But what they can do is make a GLP-1 analog, or they'll call it a GLP-1 agonist. It's a synthetic compound. They call it Ozempic or Wegovy. Those are the brand names of semaglutide, is the generic. And you inject it, and it goes to the brain, and it says to the GLP-1 receptor, chill out. You can, let's turn down the appetite. And it's effective. It really does do that. And so many people lose a lot of weight. Along the way, they get kind of nauseated and have a lot of issues with the drug, unfortunately.
So much better to use food. And one of the things that you're saying is that fiber can naturally make us feel full and satisfied without having to have the side effects of a drug.
Yes, and going beyond that, there are huge advantages to this. Let's say you take the drug and you think this is amazing. It really just shut my appetite down and I'm losing weight, and people do. But here's what happens. Let's say you get over your nausea and the vomiting and the diarrhea, and let's say you don't get gallbladder disease or pancreatitis, which are some of the side effects that are reported. Let's say none of that happens. What does happen is that your weight loss stops, or it sort of plateaus. And then at that point, you have got to keep taking the drug for the rest of your life, because as soon as you stop, the weight comes back up. And the price tag is $15,600 a year. So people get kind of annoyed. They say, wait a minute, I plateaued. I'm not at the weight I really want to be. I don't feel all that great. And if I stop paying, I'm going to regain all that lost weight. And that's it. That's what the drug does. But my research colleague here, Hannah Kaliova, did an amazing study. She brought in individuals and she gave them a meat sandwich. And she measured their GLP-1. What do you think happened? Like a lot of nothing. The GLP-1 didn't spike. But then she said, okay, let's have a plant-based sandwich. And the GLP-1 went bang. It went right up. Your digestive tract is waiting for high fiber, high complex carbohydrate foods, and your body does so much better with them, and you get a natural GLP-1 rise that's similar to a drug. So without all the bad side effects, and instead of costing you money, it actually ends up being cheaper to eat that way as well. She calculated in some of our studies that people save about $500 a year by going to a plant-based diet.
Wow. So $15,000 that you pay versus $500 that you save. It sounds like a win-win situation to me.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about calorie-trapping foods. You mentioned it a little bit with the study with the bread, but what exactly is happening there, and what are some examples of foods that do that?
Yeah, it's such a simple thing, but an amazing thing. And what these researchers at Tufts actually did is frankly something that I don't think I'm going to talk my research team into doing. They took stool samples from all the participants eating whole grain bread, and they managed to add up all of the unabsorbed calories in them and found that it was that people were losing about 100 calories per day. But the point of this wasn't that you should be eating whole grain bread or brown rice alone, because it's an effective fiber. Those are what we call the insoluble fiber. There's also soluble fiber. That's like, say, oats. You know how oats get kind of mushy as they're cooked in water? That's a sign that they're high in soluble fiber. And the reason we want both is that soluble fiber is the one that really lowers your cholesterol. So what do? I want to trap the calories. I want to lower my cholesterol. I want to do all this stuff, and I want to do it for cheap. You have whole grains. That's good. Have fruit. Have vegetables. And the granddaddy of all is this humble food that does not have a good PR group working for it, but that is the bean. The bean that our grandparents knew about and that the younger generation has totally forgotten. It's cheap. It's got lots of protein in it. It's got lots of soluble and insoluble fiber. It's got a little bit of iron. It's got calcium. Good food. It just needs a good PR group speaking out for it.
You're so right. I'm a bean pusher, and I feel like so many families, especially young families now, have no clue what to do with a legume. They're not familiar with it. It wasn't passed down to them. So it's almost like we're having to go through this relearning period of this amazing food that's so versatile and so delicious and so filling and can help in so many ways.
That's
All
true.
right, well,
And these things, these little humble foods turn into beautiful things. The legume group is beans, it's peas, it's lentils. So when I wrote the Power Foods diet, I worked with Dustin Harder, who is a terrific recipe developer, and Lindsay S. Nixon, also a brilliant recipe developer. And they came up with wonderful things like Indian dal. You can make it a nice mango dal. Oh my God, out of this world. Or a lentil soup. Or I have a Southwest chili that is just great. And all of these foods use the various power food ingredients as well as beans and other things. And they taste great. They cost pennies. Super easy to do.
yeah. What's your favorite legume?
Gee, that's like asking who your favorite kid is. I don't know that I could say that, but I'll tell you. I'll tell you the ones that happen to come across my threshold a lot is I'm really partial to black beans. And when I was a kid growing up, it was all navy beans, but you really can't beat black beans and black bean soup. And then the soybean is an amazing thing. It's a bean, but you can turn it into miso, edamame. People turn it into veggie burgers and veggie hot dogs. And one day they're going to make snow tires out of soy. It's amazing. It's so versatile. So don't forget the beans, the bean products. Don't forget lentils. Don't forget our friend the pea. There are millions of them. They're all great. And you go to the store, you buy the dried ones. You could feed your family for weeks with these things. They are so inexpensive.
Yeah, so inexpensive and just really convenient because it's shelf stable, right? Like it stays in your pantry until you're ready to cook it. And things like lentils and split peas, that's actually a very rapid meal. You can make them very quickly. So it really
Yeah.
pays to have those in your pantry.
Yeah, and canned is okay. I'm not saying anything bad about canned. Just make sure that they cook them well. Some factories, they think you should be eating al dente beans. No, no, no. If it's like a little rock when you take it out of the can, you're not going to digest it. Make sure they're nice and soft. But cans are great. Make it from scratch. Man, super easy.
All right, well, let's talk about metabolism boosters. This is a whole nother category that can help. What is that? And what are some examples of metabolism boosters?
After a meal, your metabolism rises. What that means is your body starts burning calories more rapidly. Partly that's because you're absorbing things and you're storing things. And that's sort of work for your body. So it takes some calories to do that. However, researchers have found that different foods have really strongly different effects. Let's say I give you a pat of butter. Nothing happens. Doesn't stimulate your metabolism. I'll give you 2 pats of butter. Nothing. I'll give you the whole darn stick of butter and nothing happens. Fatty foods are just really no good with this. But let me give you a piece of toast and I'm going to put some cinnamon on your toast. It turns out that you have a receptor in your digestive tract where an aldehyde that's a natural part of the cinnamon, it attaches. Okay, so you're enjoying your cinnamon toast. The cinnamon, this little aldehyde that's in the cinnamon attaches to it, and then it triggers your body to release a little bit of adrenaline that ramps up your appetite ever so slightly. And researchers wanted to see, well, what happens if a person really does this? Teaspoon of cinnamon every day. What they found is that within about 16 weeks, people were losing about 7.5 pounds. Now, I am not suggesting that you do that, but you can you easily put it on oatmeal or bread or pudding. And anyway, as you'll see in the Power Foods diet, we're using the cinnamon trick. Oh, and I got to tell you, oh my God, my favorite of all, Lindsay and Dustin got together And Lindsay said, what's everybody's favorite breakfast? French toast. Right, got it. But, we can modify it so it's not just dripping in fat the way my dear old mom made it with eggs and goo. So a nice lighter French toast. She tops it with cinnamon for the metabolism boost. And in comes Dustin, who says, I'm going to make you a blueberry syrup. Blueberries have the anthocyanins in them that is the number one weight loss food. And so you put this together and it's just a superpower for losing weight.
And it sounds so decadent and so delicious, like a dream come true.
Well, it is delicious. It's light. And it's one other thing, for a lot of people, when they eat heavy foods, they get kind of sleepy afterwards. Sort of the Thanksgiving syndrome where you had all that gravy. What's happening is your blood is getting viscous and it no longer circulates as well. It doesn't oxygenate your brain. With the foods in the Power Foods diet, they're all much lighter than that. So afterwards, you will feel energized. You don't feel that sluggishness. It's just the opposite.
Yeah. But as your taste buds adjust, it tastes just as good, but better, right? Like it tastes good to your taste buds, but then it feels good in your body. So you actually start having more of an affinity to the lighter foods rather than those heavy ones that make you sluggish. So I love that. Okay, so the book is called The Power Foods Diet, but you have a specific definition to what a power food is in this context. So how would you define a power food?
Well, power foods are things that really do accelerate weight loss. And you sort of described that there are really three different types. And one is the appetite-taming, one is that calorie-trapping effect, and one is the metabolism-boosting effect. And there are some foods, I have to confess, that we're not entirely sure exactly how they work. That's the blueberry is sort of like that. The anthocyanins that are in the blueberries do seem to be the critical thing that is causing this weight loss. They seem to be metabolism boosters, and they may also be appetite tamers. They may do both. So anyway, that's what power foods are.
Let's twist gears a little bit and talk about some negative things that can happen when you aren't eating power foods. You kind of mentioned this already about fat, but can you explain a little bit better how high fat foods or having a high fat diet can affect our metabolism?
This is a tragic thing. You eat something really fatty, and the fat within the first 40 centimeters of your intestinal tract is absorbed into your blood. It doesn't wait around. It just invades. And when it does, first of all, it's really dense in calories. Every fat gram has 9 calories, and they go to our thighs, to our belly, wherever we store fat. But there's something worse. The fat particles can also get in to other parts of your body. They get into your muscle cells. Who knew? They get into your liver cells. And when that happens, it's disaster because your muscles are your calorie burners. If you have a good muscle mass, you burn calories. But if the muscle cells get packed with fat, their metabolism is disrupted. It's disabled to a degree. And you see this in diabetes in a more extreme case, where a person who has fat building up inside their muscle cells, normally a muscle cell responds to insulin to let sugar into the cell. Now it's packed with fat. The insulin can try all it wants to get the glucose in, and that cell is insulin resistant. And you may not have diabetes. You may not have prediabetes, or you might. But a normal person eating a lot of fatty stuff can become insulin resistant, not within weeks, not within days, but within hours. I can give you one single fatty meal. The fat builds up in your muscle cells and it makes them unresponsive. And what is happening now is your metabolism is shutting down. You'll discover, gee, I gain weight so easily because you're not metabolizing it anymore. When I was 20, I could lose weight easily. Now I'm 40, now I'm 50, now I'm 60, now I'm 70, whatever it is. You don't, because you're destroying your metabolism. That's the bad news. Good news, you can drain it out. You can get the fat out of your cells. You just get it out of your diet and it dissipates on its own.
Yeah. And it can happen almost just as quickly. I think that people don't realize how powerful this way of eating is, that they don't have to wait years for a positive effect. It can start happening right away. Like your cells start cleaning out right away.
We see this with people who have diabetes very clearly. A person with type 2 diabetes, I know that they've got fat inside their muscle cells and inside their liver cells, and we can see it with a technique called magnetic resonance spectroscopy. We can quantify it. And then they say, okay, all right, Dr. Barnard, in this 3-week research study or 8-week or 16-week study, whatever it is, I will not eat any animal fat. I'm going to be a vegan. I'm going to do a totally vegan diet. And I'm going to keep oils low. From day one, the fat starts to dissipate from their cells. And you have to tell everybody, if they have diabetes and they're on medication, let your doctor know that you're doing this diet because it's powerful. Very, very rapidly, a person who's on insulin may find that as the fat comes out of their cells, the sugar goes in, their blood sugar drops, and they have to cut back on their insulin to avoid dropping too low. Now, they're thrilled with that. The idea of using less insulin or maybe not needing it at all anymore is a great thing. But the diet is so powerful that it's important for them to be aware of it. And if you don't have diabetes, what's the equivalent is that your metabolism is rehabilitating itself because you're getting your cells back to normal.
Yeah, so it's decreasing the risk of these chronic conditions like the diabetes and the heart disease because it's just making you more efficient. Your metabolism is thanking you for this change. Now, we talked about how our gut bugs love fiber, but one of the things you write about in your book is how fat is actually not necessarily a friend of the gut microbiome. And I actually didn't know this very much. So, can you explain how fatty foods affect our gut cells and our gut bacteria?
This is another thing that's surprisingly quick. Your gut bacteria do have their favorite foods. If they could order carryout, your gut bacteria would say, I would prefer beans and vegetables. I'd prefer whole grains and I'd prefer fruit, but you can keep your cheese omelet. I don't really want that because it doesn't give them what they want. And some researchers in Pittsburgh did an amazing study about 5-6 years ago where they selected a group of people living in Pittsburgh and a comparison group living in rural South Africa. The folks in rural South Africa were eating a lot of root vegetables and beans and rather simple foods. And the folks in Pittsburgh were maybe eating a few too many chicken wings at KFC and American stuff. They asked them to switch their diets. So the folks in Pittsburgh were asked to eat root vegetables and beans and rural type foods. And the folks in South Africa were suddenly eating the Western foods. And what you saw was their gut bacteria started to suddenly respond in a dramatic way. So the folks who were in rural Pittsburgh suddenly bringing in the plant-based foods, their gut bacteria became dramatically healthier within 14 days. The folks in rural South Africa found their gut bacteria degenerating within 14 days. It is that fast. So you want gut bacteria to help you because they're busily metabolizing things too.
Yeah, absolutely. They can work for us, or if we're feeding them the wrong things, they can actually create harm to our body too by some of the chemicals that they emit. Well, in the book, you also talked about the 6 categories of foods that the Harvard team identified in a 2015 study on weight loss. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
They brought in more than 100,000 people and they asked them about the foods that they've been eating. They tracked their weight as years went by, and they found that the more of certain foods they ate, the more weight they lost. Number 6 was the bean group, beans, peas, lentils. Number 5 was the melon group, cantaloupe, melons, watermelon. Number 4 was citrus, so orange juice. Yes, orange juice counted, but whole oranges, grapefruits, yes. Where are we? Number 3 was green vegetables like spinach or asparagus. Number 2 was specific vegetables, the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, that kind of thing. And number 1 was our humble friend, the blueberry. The blueberry and the blueberry's cousins, like raspberries and strawberries, and the anthocyanin-rich foods seemed to be the big issue, which is then why twin studies have shown that individuals consuming more anthocyanins have less abdominal fat.
I love that. And blueberries are so delicious. I mean, they just have so many positive effects to them. I think there's no reason why we shouldn't be eating berries, those cruciferous vegetables, our friends, the beans. I mean, this all makes sense to me.
Oh, and you should see what the recipe developers did. Yes, they made the blueberry syrup, which is, I mean, it's so good on your French toast and everything else. But they also made brownies, which they call black and blue. Black and blue brownies. They have, you're not going to believe this. They have a little bit of black beans in there and some blueberries in the brownies. And somehow in the process of cooking, they all kind of disappear, but they have this beautiful texture. Dustin made a triple berry sorbet, which has got blueberries and strawberries and raspberries all together in a sorbet that is the most beautiful kind of light purple color. And my favorite one is he has blueberry pops, where you can take blueberries and you take some bananas and a pear and just a few other ingredients, you mush them together, and you get one of these little popsicle forms they sell at the store, put the little stick in it, put it in the freezer. And hot summer day, all the kids are coming around, and you say, I got a surprise for you. You pull it out, and it is the most cool little popsicle they ever had. And it tastes great, and you've got no guilt. And when the other parents ask you what you're giving your kids, it's all fruit. It's so delicious. Anyway, all this is in the Power Foods diet. So I hope people have a look. And if you don't feel like having a berry, have my carrot cake. That's fine too. We have all of these choices for you.
Yeah, and the recipes look amazing. And I love how there are color pictures of the recipes weaved in throughout the book as well, because, it makes that even more mouthwatering. You're just so ready to taste some of those.
Well, I have to confess that was the idea, because so many people, as I said, have really felt that the diet is deprivation. To be healthy means you're going to miss the joys of life. But when we wrote the Power Foods diet, I wanted it to look nice. I wanted it to be beautiful. And the pictures of the foods are just out of this world. And anyway, they did such a beautiful job with it. And it's not quite food porn. I wouldn't quite go that far, but it does look appealing. So my hope is that people will see we're not taking anything away. We're bringing things to you, including some good health and hopefully a lot of good knowledge.
Yeah, so delicious, so satisfying. Okay, this is going to be one of the most important questions of the interview, because this is a hot topic these days. Does eating fruit make you gain weight?
Back when we were kids, the whole idea was an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Apples are good. But somewhere along the line, some curmudgeon-y person said, wait a minute, apples have sugar in them. They have carbs. You should never eat an apple. Don't eat apples. They'll hurt you. And there's been a whole generation of folks who thought, oh my goodness sakes, I can't have apples and pears because they have carbs. And if they're dried fruit, that's especially bad. And they avoid all these things. Researchers put this to the test, and they did it specifically with apples. They brought in a group of people, and they said, I want you to test apples and see if they cause weight gain. Add an apple to your diet every day. Add 2 apples every day. Add 3 apples to your diet every day, and do this day after day after day. And what happened? How much weight did people gain from adding 3 apples to their diet? They didn't gain weight. They lost weight. So why do they lose weight? Because the apples are filled with fiber. They've got a lot of water in them. They don't have a lot of calories. They are very filling. And also, they just kind of make you feel like you're taking care of yourself. And so, no, these foods don't cause weight gain at all. Fruit is the natural food for the human animal.
Yes, and it's delicious, it's filling, it's got fiber, antioxidants, feeds those gut bacteria. So we definitely should continue eating fruit and not fear fruit like a lot of people are
Continue
these
eating it
days.
and also explore it. When I was a kid, I grew up in North Dakota. Do you think I ever tasted a papaya? Do you think anybody ever walked in the door with a mango? No, nothing like that. I thought like potato chips were fruit. That was about as far as we came. So yes, apples, bananas, oranges, pears, fine, but explore a little bit and have fun with it. And I don't care where you live, you can find these foods in one form or another. So there is a mango doll, and I have to say, if there is any food that could be addicting, it is the mango. Oh my goodness sakes. And the dal recipe is just absolutely out of this world. The sorbets, all of them, just really crazy good.
Yeah, mango is definitely my favorite fruit. I'm from Panama, and having a fresh mango off of the tree, there's nothing like it. It's pure
Right.
heaven. Okay, so that's been fantastic. Thank you so much. Now I want to ask a few questions about, just some of your thoughts and opinions. What do you wish more people knew?
to tell you the truth, I really wish that more people knew that despite whatever our genetic inheritance may be, we can change our lives. You see people, including well-meaning doctors, saying, well, if your parents were heavy, you're going to be heavy. That's just your genes. In fact, there was a show on 60 Minutes, January 1st, 2023, that was really pushing Wegovy. And one of the doctors they had on there saying, well, the biggest risk factor for obesity is having obese parents. What they are missing is that we don't just give our children DNA. We give them recipes. We give them ideas about food. And you don't have to just run with your inheritance. You can change these things. And the reason this is important is, let's say you're a parent now. Whatever age your kids are, we can help them to be on a better pathway. And that is so important because kids today have every threat against them. I mean, it is a tough time to be a 10-year-old with every kind of thing. And by the time they get their high school diploma, a lot of kids have weight they don't want. They've got a higher cholesterol than they want. They've got high blood sugar that they shouldn't have. And we can change all that. I don't have to go into your body and start reworking your genes. We rework what we're serving for breakfast.
Yes. It's never too early and it's never too late, really. So I tell parents this all the time because a lot of parents come to me and they're feeling guilty. I wish I would have started doing this sooner. It's okay. Start now. It's not too late. Just one foot in front of the other, take little baby steps. And then you'll look back in a few years, you'll be so proud of yourself that you started making these changes, but it's never, ever too late. All right, Dr. Barnard, how do you define success in this lifetime?
I guess everybody has their own definition of it. In my own personal view of things, I view life as very short. And the reason I say that is I was looking back in my own family tree, and here are all these names and people who live various places and all these gravestones. And people are born, they live their lives, they die and they're forgotten, or all but forgotten. And so during the short period of time that I'm on Earth, I'm hoping to be able to size up the suffering that's around me and do something about it to the extent that I can. And that may mean my fellow people. That means animals that are on our plates and animals in laboratories and things like that, things that as a doctor, I have a say in. And so that I'm hoping to be able to do what I can to change those things. And then if I got a little time left, let's have some fun.
I love it.
You know,
All right. Well, that
there's
brings
a lot
me.
to be done, and I like to be creative if I can. I
Yeah.
write books. I've got a rock and roll band that we play together. You know, have a little fun too while you're at it. So yes, there are problems in the world. Don't let it get you down.
Aw, that's the most beautiful message. I love that. And yeah, I'm so grateful for all the work that you've done. And I'm so glad that you have that perspective. I'd love to know if you're willing to share if there's a goal or a dream that has evaded you that you're still like really wanting to accomplish, or maybe something that you have on your bucket list that you're wanting to tackle next.
I wouldn't say that exactly, but I'm recurrently reminded about how our species, as Freud wrote way back when, we're kind of preoccupied with things that maybe are there to advance our species, but don't really help us so much. We're preoccupied with aggression and reproduction, and all these things that don't have anything to do with being compassionate and sort of sustaining the world around us. So those things are on my mind a little bit. And my hope is to see what I can do to develop my compassion spray and spray it all around and see what we can do to make that last.
I love that. You should totally invent that. We can have it on Amazon. Everybody can buy some compassion spray and start spraying it everywhere. That sounds beautiful. What does it mean to be human?
From my personal standpoint, I'm hoping that being human means to be humble, to recognize that we're actually one of many, many creatures on this planet. We share it with them, and I want to pay them the same kind of respect that maybe they would show me sometime. I don't know.
Oh,
I
that's so
wasn't taught
beautiful.
those lessons growing up. When I was a kid growing up in North Dakota, ducks and geese would fly out of Canada, and we'd wait for them and we'd shoot them, and we'd blow them out of the sky. And I brought cattle to slaughter with my uncle, and we did a lot of things to a lot of beings in a way that I wouldn't do now. And it takes us some time to learn that.
Absolutely. And then once we do, we can pass it down to the next generations, and then it just gets better and better. So I agree with that. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Again, I'm so grateful that you keep writing amazing books. So if you could just please tell my listeners how they could connect with you, where they can purchase this book and all the rest of your books, that would be fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you for asking. The Power Foods Diet is on Amazon and online and everywhere books are sold. It's coming out March 26th, but it's there for pre-order right now. And if you order it on Amazon, they'll have it at your doorstep the very first day that the bookstores get it too. So I hope people will get it. But more than that, I hope that they will share it, because you're not the only one in your household who's got some issues. Everybody else does too, or may get there. And if we try a recipe, you make a little bit extra, bring it to work, share it with somebody else. You can seduce their taste buds. And who knows, if they like what they taste, maybe they'll take an interest in helping their family as well. So let's spread the love.
Absolutely. That is such a good tip. And it's so true. People love food. You don't even have to tell them what's in there. Just bring the food. It's free. People will eat it. They will love it. They will be so curious. And that is a really great way to help spread this message and to entice people into eating more whole plant foods. Well, Dr. Barnard, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you so much. And I hope that you have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much. It's been great being with you today. My name is Dr. Neal Barnard, and I'm human.
Thank you for listening to another episode of I Am Human. I would be so honored if you subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. We love our listeners and take your feedback seriously. If you have questions or constructive feedback, you can email us at podcast@dryami.com. That's podcast@doctoryami.com. I am your host, Dr. Yami Cazorla-Lancaster. I Am Human is produced by myself and Alejandra Parra. Graphics designed by Alejandra Parra. Music by Angela Soph with Glowbox Productions and edited by the Castos production team. Remember, human, you are here for a reason. Have fun, explore, and live your life to the fullest.